I want to ask you something, and I need you to really think about it. Is something abnormal happening in the South Jersey housing market? Or does it just feel abnormal because we keep comparing today's market to the past? Because what I'm seeing right now, as a broker, as a homeowner, and as someone talking to buyers and sellers every single day, doesn't fit neatly into anything we've experienced before. This is not 2008, it's not 2021 either, and honestly, it's definitely not a normal market. So today, we're going to break down what's actually happening, what feels weird, what buyers and sellers are getting wrong, and what smart people are doing differently right now in South Jersey. And I'll tell you now, some of this may completely change what you think you know about the housing market. So let's start with the feeling that people have right now, because I keep hearing the same comments over and over again. Kat, the market feels frozen. Something feels off. I think I'm just going to wait until things go back to normal. But here's the problem. I don't think normal exists anymore. Seriously, we are in a market where interest rates are higher than buyers want, prices are higher than buyers expected, inventory is still incredibly low, and sellers are emotionally attached to what homes sold for in 2021 and 2022. That combination creates tension. Not a crash, not a boom, a pressure cooker. Pressure cookers release steam in strange ways. That's exactly what we're seeing right now in South Jersey. South Jersey is no longer one market. This is probably the biggest thing people are missing. It's dozens of micro markets happening at the exact same time. You can literally have two homes in the same town, same school district, similar square footage, and one gets 12 showings the first weekend with multiple offers, while the other sits for 60 days with barely any activity. And then everyone starts whispering, what's wrong with that house? Sometimes nothing. The difference may simply be pricing, presentation, updates, layout, natural light, location within the neighborhood, or even how the home feels online. Today's buyers are extremely emotional decision makers. And if the home does not immediately connect with them, they move on fast. For example, I've been experiencing this quite a bit recently. So it's not even that I could just say one buyer, but it's been several of them recently, where they start off saying that they want to be in a particular area. We start looking at homes in that area. The homes aren't matching up to their expectations, whether it's the home needs too much improvements and little improvements, like maybe it needs paint, maybe it needs flooring, maybe the bathroom has pink tiles, blue tiles, but that's just not what they're looking for, and they're willing to hold out and they're willing to go to another town for it. So that's really just the kind of market that we're in now. Buyers are being very selective, very emotional, but also very strategic. So let's get into it. More about the buyers, right? Another thing that I keep hearing is there are no buyers, and that's absolutely not true. The buyers are still there, but they've changed. Today's buyers are more cautious, more educated, and honestly, more skeptical. They've spent months scrolling Zillow, watching interest rates, studying price reductions, and hearing nonstop headlines about the market. So now they're asking themselves, if I'm paying this price with these interest rates, this house better feel worth it. And because of that, buyers care about things today that didn't matter nearly as much during the frenzy years. Now they notice the outdated kitchens, the old flooring, the awkward layouts, the deferred maintenance, bad photography, and homes that feel overpriced. In 2021, some of those homes would have sold anyway. Today, not necessarily. And that's really a big thing. Buyers today, it's about that emotion. It's about that feeling that you get when you walk into a home. Sometimes if the home is just not well kept, if it's even very cluttered, the buyer is just not feeling it. And it makes them decide that they want to just walk away and look for another home. They're also deeply considering what they're getting for their money. Sometimes they want to stay within that budget. Let's just use numbers, $2,800. They don't want to pay more than $2,800 a month. So it doesn't matter where they go to get all the things that they need or want in a home. They're willing to do that because all they want to do is spend $2,800 a month. So this isn't buyer weakness, it's recalibration. Now, let's talk about sellers for a minute, because I actually think a lot of sellers are misunderstood right now. People immediately say, oh, sellers are greedy. No, most sellers are anchored emotionally to what they saw happen a few years ago. They watched neighbors get bidding wars, homes sell in days, and prices climb aggressively. And naturally, they think, why shouldn't my home get that too? But here's the reality. The market does not care what your neighbor got 2 years ago. It only cares about what today's buyers are willing to do right now. And that's a hard emotional adjustment for people, especially because for many homeowners, their house is personal. It's not just an asset. It's memories, it's identity, it's pride. But buyers don't buy memories, they buy value. So I had a listing and the pricing was right based on the comps. It was actually less than what the homes were being valued at in the last 6 months. But we priced it slightly below because my seller wanted to make sure that they could sell it in a reasonable amount of time and move. But the market, today's crazy market, shifted so quickly that it was like the buyers were not willing to pay that price. So of course, a price adjustment needed to be done, but that price adjustment doesn't mean that the house is not worth more. It just means that what the buyers are willing to pay for it today is not at that higher price. And that's what I mean. It goes based on what buyers are willing to do. And again, different neighborhoods, different things. I had a house go over $70,000, and over asking than the list price for that area. Now we take a different area that I listed another home in at the same exact time, and it actually sat on the market for several weeks. So this is the crazy time that we're in. Now let's talk about interest rates, because everyone wants to blame rates for everything. And yes, rates absolutely matter. But honestly, I don't think rates are the biggest issue anymore. I think uncertainty is. Buyers are uncertain. Sellers are uncertain. Even agents are uncertain. Buyers are asking, should I wait? Will prices drop? Will rates come down? Am I buying at the wrong time? Sellers are asking, if I sell, where do I go? Will I regret selling? Am I missing the top of the market? And uncertainty slows decisions. That's why this market feels strange. Not dead, not collapsing, just cautious. So this one is another huge issue. People keep listening to national headlines when real estate is actually hyper-local. What's happening in Texas, Florida, Arizona, California does not automatically reflect South Jersey. South Jersey has its own dynamics. We still have inventory shortages, strong commuter demand, limited housing supply, established neighborhoods, and areas people genuinely want to move into. That matters. And honestly, some towns are still extremely competitive. Take Cherry Hill, for example. List a home in Cherry Hill, and I want to say I don't even care about the condition as long as it's livable and it's going to sell, and it's going to sell quickly. Listed in Collingswood, in Haddonfield, Morristown. Again, same effect. However, if you're listed in other towns, maybe Mount Laurel is pretty hot too, but let's just take, this is in Camden County. It is a city area, so let's just take Camden City, and it might sit a little bit longer, right? And that's not always necessarily true. I've seen homes in Camden City that hit the market that are in great condition, and they also sell very quickly, but it has to be at the right price. I want to say the price ranges that are moving and moving quickly, believe it or not, definitely move-in ready under $300,000. It's not going to last. But then you also have those homes, which a lot of first-time home buyers are moving into, because we experienced that, or we've seen that for years now, that no longer the first-time home buyer is buying that $200,000, $300,000 home. They're moving straight into that mid-level home. They're skipping the starter home today. So in that $500,000, $600,000 range, it's extremely competitive. That's where you're seeing the multiple offers, anywhere between that $500,000 to $800,000 price range here in South Jersey. Buyers are still targeting move-in ready. I want to say recently they started to consider small makeover projects, not major ones, but small, maybe a kitchen, maybe a bathroom, maybe flooring, maybe painting. You hear me say that a lot. But that whole, okay, I'm buying a house with just the studs, and I saw one of those in MLS the other day where it just had all of the framing up, but you needed to go in, you needed to do all your drywall, you needed to put all your rooms in, and that has been on the market for about 60 days right now. So here's the interesting part. The smartest people in this market are not panicking, they're adapting. Smart buyers are negotiating strategically, looking at long-term ownership, and understanding that they can refinance later. Smart sellers are preparing their homes properly. Big deal there. Pricing realistically and creating momentum instead of chasing the market down. And honestly, the people struggling the most right now are usually the people trying to force old market expectations onto a completely different market. And that's where the disconnect is happening. I have more sellers today that are taking the time out to go through a staging consult. They're taking the time out to soft stage their homes versus just saying, no problem, just take the professional photos and put it on the market. And let me tell you, my sellers who are doing that, it is making a huge difference from the homes that are just getting put on the market with no staging, with no professional cleaning. You can see a major difference. So, is something abnormal happening in the South Jersey housing market? Yes. Absolutely. But abnormal does not mean broken. It means the market evolved, and the people who understand the shift will make much better decisions moving forward. So if you're thinking about buying, selling, relocating, downsizing, or even just trying to understand what your home may realistically be worth right now, you need advice based on your market, not national headlines, not fear, not social media panic. So if you found this video helpful, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your town in the comments. I may do a future video specifically breaking down what's happening in your area of South Jersey. And as always, you deserve a more meaningful real estate experience.